was on that track. And then, just quit practicing and just got out of it.
Yeah, that's like I've always I would love to learn to play the harmonica well enough to do it, but just something to it.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's I want to pick up ukulele, but my wife's like, you got to pick or choose like moonshine or music.
No way, you can have both. No, you know what you need to do is you need her to play the ukulele, and then you pick up another instrument, and then bam, you guys get your own band.
That's it, a moonshine band.
There you go. Yeah.
She likes to do she likes to do the antiquing thing. So she's has her own booth. Like we go to different places, pick up antiques that are on sale, and then she resells them.
And does she like to do the remodeling of them? Like she likes to buy something old and make it nice, and then
yeah,
that's cool though. I like doing that with old record players. Take them and turn them into little bars or whatever. It's kind of cool.
I'd love to do that with like a piano, like a speakeasy bar.
Oh yeah, that'd be awesome. Yeah, we need more speakeasy bars.
I agree. We got a couple here in Charlotte, but I think like having one in the house would be sweet. Like prior to we have an 8-month-old, but I was planning on turning part of that bedroom that the nursery's now in. Close it off, put like a bookshelf door, and turn it like a speakeasy type bar.
All right. I got to get a little bit closer here because I'm off camera.
That's what I did with my dining room, is I turned it into a bourbon room because I never used it for a dining room.
All right.
I feel like dining rooms are like a thing of the 90s. Like now, people just have like this empty room that's like in the middle of their house. Don't know what to do with it.
When I think of dining rooms, I think of the Griswolds in Christmas Vacation.
Oh, I love that movie.
All right. So Rachel's here. You're Rachel. Hi, Rachel. That would be Chris's Rachel. And then Josh Charleston of Wisconsin Bourbon Company. He's here. And Lisa A. Day says howdy. So we're live on Facebook. So welcome everybody. We're now live on Facebook and YouTube. So watch us there. Now the last thing of the mastermind of technology is we are recording. Boom.
Recording in progress.
All right, so we got everything going. Welcome everybody to the live Facebook Live, YouTube Live with Nick Calo, right? That's what it is. Not Calo, Calo, right? You sent me the pronunciation. I appreciate that because I am known for a lot of my screw ups. Really, I am. So welcome. I hope and we also have CT here tonight. It's great to have you with us. It's and hopefully we're gonna have you a little bit more coming up because it looks you're ready to go now, right?
Yeah, where the bridle is off, basketball season is over, so let the fun begin.
Yeah, this time, I mean, it just seems like this time of the year, even for like overall the after the holiday, that January into like mid-February, it's almost like there's a lull in how much bourbon's out there, how much stuff is getting done. I mean, it's wintertime, cold. It keeps you. So overall, I think now I don't know, Nick, where are you right now? Where are you? Is it what state? What's your location?
He's in the Tar Heel state.
Yeah, I know it's the color of that shirt. At least it looks Tar Heel blue from here. Yeah, look at that shirt. So I'm right outside of Charlotte, North Carolina, in a small town called Denver. So we're Denver at the east. And today I think the high was 70 degrees.
Nice.
Now, us in Ohio, which we are definitely not used to this type of weather in February. You got it right, Chris? We've been in the 60s. Last week we were in the 70s. Yeah, we dropped down, but it's really not been a cold winter. That's one thing.
It was humid today.
Yeah, I mean, we had a little bit of rain. We didn't have a lot of rain. It was up here in Canton, and the whole day, was sitting around the high 50s or the low 60s, which for February is crazy.
Yeah, I think we've been a whole year without snow here, so it's a little out of the ordinary for us.
Well, if you say here's a unique thing. Last year, in March, we had a couple late February, early March here in Ohio. We had a couple pretty big snowstorms. Probably the most that you're talking about a couple feet. The one and the other one was about 12 inches. And I've been living here for about 18 years now, and I've never invested in a snowblower. I come originally from Wisconsin, so I have a flat driveway. And most of the time in Ohio, if it snows within a couple of days, it's melted, or you can. So there hasn't been a lot of times where I've had it, but those times I had a shovel. So before that second one, my back had gone out, and it started. It was going. They were saying it was coming, so I ordered a snowblower. Well, the the storm hit on Thursday, and the snowblower was ready on Friday. So it really didn't do me much good. So I bought it. I picked it up the next week. I put it in my garage, but I never unpacked it. It never snowed again the rest of the year. Then it sat unpacked, like in the box in my garage, all the way up until November. And we got a little dusting, and I'm like, well, I better put this thing together. And I think I put it together in November, like on a 70-degree sunny day. Used the electric starter, got it working, put gas in it, and we have not had a reason to use a snowblower this year. So I've had a snowblower almost for a full year now, and I invested finally after 18 years. I invested in the snowblower, and there's a chance I might never have to use it again. Right? Global warming.
Yeah, that's what they say. Chinese balloons, whatever.
Yeah. What are they called? Contrails. Yep. Changing the weather. Anyways, whatever, it's different. But so get into, let's just real quick cover that. The weather and distilling. Where you distill, how you distill. I mean, how does that affect you?
Well, definitely ambient temperature affects it. You have hundreds of different yeast strains that you can use for your fermentation before you go into distilling. What I use, you have to maintain anywhere from 65 to 90 degrees. It has a fairly moderate temperature range. But in saying that, we've had some cold spells here to where I've had, stalled fermentation. So good weather is always important. We as moonshiners, we always have some kind of trick up our sleeve to keep it going through the wintertime. One of the things I use is the fish tank heater. You set the temperature on it, drop it in your mash, and it keeps your mash at what temperature it's supposed to be at.
Okay, so you don't double it as an actual fish tank heater, right? It's just
no.
Just kidding. All right, so
it could be my secret ingredient. I mean, I don't know.
There you go. Just a little bit, right? That adds a little bit of a tang.
A brine.
A brine. It just depends on what fish are in the tank, right? You could have,
right.
Yeah, you put some piranhas in there, and that would do it. And the fighting fish, you got different. There's a thing right there. Although that's just goofing around. Anyways, so the yeast is the big thing. Once you have the fermentation and it's done, and you start distilling, the still really isn't affected too much by weather, or do you need more energy, more heat to keep it when it's cold out and you're distilling?
Well, it all depends on how thick your copper steel is, or if your stainless steel if you're going that route. I got a pretty thick gauge copper on mine, so like it normally holds the temperature pretty well. Um, in my earlier versions of moonshining, I had like 18 gauge copper, and it was like you had to have a pretty warm environment, otherwise you're burning through more propane to try to keep it heated up, or uh, you're losing vapor as it gets down to the before it gets to the condenser. So
Okay. So you just start after distilling for a while, and in this is season you're distilling in. You kind of start to get to know what you got to do based off what's happening. But at
it,
this, okay,
I was gonna say it's one of those things you definitely learn from trial and error experience. I started out, making wines and meads, and got to where I had so much product laying around. I needed to do something with this. That's where I got started into making brandy. And I bought like a little still off of Amazon for $100, and that's how I got my start. And then it's like becomes like a gateway drug into buying, bigger stills, more parts.
Hey Nick, do you vary what you make by the season? Do you like to? Is there certain times you like to make during, different time of year?
I do grain mostly all year, but there are times like in seasonal that I do different fruits. Strawberry season's getting ready to come up. I have a bunch of people who want strawberry lemonade or something like that. I have a lady I work with who has a vineyard, and she lets me pick muscadine. So muscadine brandy is always a big hit.
all right. What did you? Let's just real quick for everybody. What you set me up a couple mini mason jars with labels. Are they the same or are they different?
They are both the same.
Okay.
So I didn't know if you want to share them or not, and it looks like you did not want to share them.
He did not.
I did want to
did not.
share, but the way it went down and how Chris came on and everything. If we would have, I would say if we would have done this next week, he would have had one of these. We haven't really seen. I mean, with his busy schedule and mine, what we were doing, we really haven't seen each other personally lately. But that'll change this weekend.
We're gonna drink that tomorrow.
Yeah, I'll bring it with us. No, I'm gonna drink some of this tonight.
But yeah, they're both the same. So they are an all corn whiskey. So a little bit of heirloom corn that I grow. It's a mix of Blue Hopi, Green Oxygen, Bloody Butcher, Jimmy Red, it's popcorn, and then I use popcorn malt for it as well. And with that fermentation process, I put peanut butter in it as well. So I start with peanut butter from the beginning.
Okay. So here's a question. So you use popcorn corn.
Yep.
So I really don't get like when the corn, you got your sweet corn, right? Where it's edible, you cook it, and when you husk it, the kernels have a lot of moisture in it and that type of thing. Where popcorn, do they dry that out to make the pop? What's the process of it ends up as a popcorn seed opposed to coming off the cob? I mean, I have no clue how that works. I've never had any. I've made popcorn and I understand what the popcorn, but compared to what would come off the cob, it doesn't seem like that's just coming off the cob in a hard seed.
It actually is. You can buy there's some specialty shops where you can buy popcorn on the cob and literally pop it on the cob like that.
So that cob actually has it's a more hardened seed. So then you're gonna put that in and cook it with the rest. I mean, when you're cooking that with the mash, and you just cook it down, and eventually it does the same thing.
Yep. So it'll gelatinize, which will start release. Well, let me back up. So you have to grind it down to almost like a either cracked corn or I grind mine down into like almost like a cornmeal. Because I use it for double uses. I'll use it for moonshine, but if I feel like making a cornbread, I can do that too. Uh, Same thing for popcorn. So you think of it like almost like a feed, like you're feeding livestock too. Like when you're getting it like it's hard grain too once you
Right.
draw it out. And so it's almost like a different variety of that.
Okay. So do you, when you do, like you said, you grow your own corn, correct? So what is the actual drying process? Is it just nature does it, or do you do something to the kernels? I mean, I'm clueless when it comes to. I've seen corn ground in the grinder, the milled, and I've done that, but I've never understood how it got from just off the fresh off the stalk, and then husked and then put into what is the process there? What do you got to do?
There are some I guess shortcuts. I call it cheating. Like you can put it in a dehydrator if you want to, but I like to think of it like barrel aging. Like nothing beats time. So really, I time the strings and I hang them up and I just let time do its thing. Like they'll eventually dry out. It's not one of those things where you just want to sit it like on a table or something because it molds that way for some reason. But if you just suspend it in the air, they eventually dry out. Almost kind of like what you would do with tobacco.
Do you keep it when you're suspending it? Are you like keeping it on the stalk and just keeping it up there, or is that kind of like, I mean, when you buy the stalks, right out and you put it in your front yard as decoration, eventually the squirrel grabs the and runs off with them, kind of thing, and that's how, so that's kind of how you dry it out. We're just hang it like that, and then.
A cool draw spot. So I like, once again, my wife, like she's a saint for letting me do the things I do. But I hang them up around the house, where I know they can get some cool temperature. Keep the fan going, keep it from getting too humid in summer. And
All right. Well, that's got to be interesting, right? Having people over and it's just kind of it adds a what outside in the inside, right? Feel.
Oh yeah, like people thought I was a witch for the longest time. I'm hanging corn around the house, and you have some kind of spell going on.
Yeah, you're burning sage and. All right.
Tiny, show that the bottle again. That picture that he puts on the bottle. It's really cool. I noticed, Nick, you have a cup that you guys did. That gray cup that has like a swirl to it that was on your Facebook page. That was really cool.
Yeah, Michaela Haynes. She lives in Tennessee. She does like all my products like that, and she actually hand paints and epoxies those one by one. So,
Yeah,
I think I got like 50 to 60 of them in stock. Like she puts a lot of time and effort into that.
Well, that's cool. That's a labor of love, right?
Funny story about that picture. So like the avatar or the what do you call that? The artificial intelligence avatar thing started coming out. And I was like, it was like $3, and they give you like 75 different samples. So I ran a few pictures through it, and that's one of the ones that came out. And I was like, man, that looks pretty sharp, and I just kind of ran with it.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah. Well, I think especially like the what is it? The white lightning, your tool mash paddle, which I really liked. I mean I use what would you say? I use iMovie also to do a lot of editing, so I recognize how it was done and but it was done very well. So I kind of was using that this week to promote us going live, So that was I think you've done a really good job as far as marketing. I enjoyed. It's kind of I'm the kind of guy that loves the full package. Now I loved when it comes to moonshining. The package is way different than bourbon. I mean, when you're talking about high end, I like Booker's. I like the box. I like the taste, I like the backstory, and then moonshining, you have a certain amount of um, when you apply all that to the moonshining thing, there's a little bit of a commercial thing that happens, but then you want some of the down home, uh, what would you say, connection of, I feel that moonshining's one step, it's raw, closer to, nature, put it that way. It's the way things had been done for a long, long time. And what would you say? The definition of moonshining isn't to make it so mass produced that everybody's getting it. It's more
Heritage.
it's individual and heritage. It's the person that's doing it, and their love for doing that, And I really think that's a cool part of moonshining.
Go ahead.
No, go finish and I'll say. Go ahead.
I was getting ready to say, like you hit the nail on the head with that. It's not something I'm in to do to become a millionaire, because I know it's not a realistic goal with that. I enjoy doing what I do, and just like sending you those samples, like I enjoy hear what people giving me feedback on what I make. A lot of times I'll lose money on me putting into it. Especially with the cost of ingredients it is today. But I just love doing it. Like I just can't get enough of it.
Now, did I read right that your grandfather used to distill?
He did, and it's one of those things where I was self-taught, different Facebook groups. But when I found out, by the time I found out he had done moonshine, like he'd already passed. So I didn't get to really pick up that knowledge, from him that, he did back when he was in West Virginia.
Pretty cool, though, that you picked up something out of the blue and then it relates back to your grandfather and you didn't even know it.
Well, and I didn't really know it until, I was looking at going on the show, and I wanted to get all my facts in line, so I started tracing it back, because I remember him talking about moonshine, but never really knowing he was a part of it. And I started talking to some family, some distant family in West Virginia and Virginia that we have, and they kind of filled in the rest for me.
Very cool.
That's cool. So I think that's good. We did a good live pregame there. So we're going to get ready to start the actual audio podcast. So I'm going to hit that. We're going to be quiet for 30 seconds. I want to say real quick that Sean Rigby says hi to us and what's happening. And then Jason Sparkman is watching along with Jason Hayes. So they've been, oh, that's wonderful. We got some stuff going on in the we actually have a barrel pick group that we talk a lot with. So what the heck just happened? Oh, we're going sideways.
Hey, I'll be right back. I gotta plug my phone in.
Oh, okay. That's no problem. So we'll just wait till he gets back. Then we'll hit the start recording for the podcast. But that room, we go around and do barrel picks all around everywhere, and then through that group, that's a Facebook chat that we have people, that I just basically changed the name of the pick. And everybody's in there, so it's pretty wild. We got some wild people in there, there's no doubt about it, because a lot of times the master distiller's in there from other picks and then the current one, so it really can get wild. And it happens at all times of night and morning.
I can understand that.
They're distillers, right?
Oh yeah. I feel like we're all like a different breed. We if you put us all in a room together, you ask someone what we all had in common, people would say, probably nothing. But
usually what's in common is your dedication to working your ass off and also your passion for what you do. And it seems like that theme runs consistently. So that's kind of that's why I like y'all. Someone, there's a couple times where people mentioned maybe that I would maybe come work at a distillery, or I would, put some time in. And I love the podcast aspect so much because, like anything else, I moved when I lived in Wisconsin, I would come visit my grandparents here in Canton. And when I came, probably every 2-3 times, I go to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And then I moved here 18 years ago, and I've been there twice. So, go freaking figure.
Take your snowblower over, and maybe they can use it.
Yeah, that's about how it would work. So it's like anything else. If you start to, what would you say? Concentrate on one particular distillery, you're not going to get to go out and do too much for all the other ones. Or you get in that group, and there's so many good groups that this is, I just love doing this. That's why meeting people like you, Nick. So it's a lot of fun. And then down the road, if we're in the area, stop by, see you, talk, share some good alcohol.
Yeah, I've actually been developing something new that's nobody's got on the shelf yet, and I hope they don't steal this idea from this podcast. But I have a movie theater that I have a good relationship with, and they give me the popcorn they don't sell at the end of the night. So I've been using that to kind of come up with like a kettle corn flavor, and so far I've had good results with it.
That is interesting. Yeah. All right, so let's get it going. I'm going to hit this. We'll be quiet. And thank you, everybody, on Facebook Live and YouTube Live for the pre podcast. And we'll get started with the main one. Here we go. Oh, come on. What just happened? All right. What? Okay.
Drinking bourbon, sipping on some scotch. We get a little wild, but it's sure fun to watch. We love what we do, we're drinking every brew. Man, we talk some shit, but we're telling the truth. Yeah, we're the Scotchy bourbon boys, raising hell and making some noise. Yeah, we're the Scotchy bourbon boys, we're here to have fun and we hope you enjoy. We're here to have fun.
All right, welcome to another podcast of the Scotchy Bourbon Boys. I'm Tiny. We got a great podcast ahead. We have Nick Calo. He was the winner, correct, of Moonshiner's Master Distiller. Not just the last one, but the what would you call series before, right? It was
So it aired actually December 14th.
Yeah. So, and then also we have CT here tonight, and we'll just have to decide. if he's going to be the coach or is going to be CT. We just don't know yet.
Whatever.
Exactly. You go with that all the time.
The guy.
I
The
the
guy.
guy in the corner.
No, not that guy.
No,
The other guy.
yeah, it's like not the guy that's going to cause the ballroom blitz, right? Not that
Right.
guy. All right, so we having Nick, we were talking a little bit before about a bunch of stuff beforehand, but really what I wanted to get into is straight up what is it? What's it like? What was it like to actually be on, you know, Moonshiner's Master Distiller? I mean, the experience, you know, is one thing, and you get to meet them, and you know they've what would you say? They've taken moonshine and presented it in a way where a lot of people it changed a lot of people in what was happening, correct? I mean, that's kind of what the show did, but with the Master Distiller, it's kind of even a, you know, another cooler thing, because I know so many people now that have been on the show, and it's just like they are I know Kelly, who we're friends with, who just won. She won the last particular series or season, and then she's, you know, now she's what is it? She's taken a job at Whiskey Thief Distillery. So there's so many different paths to go once you're on there, correct? And
oh yeah, absolutely. It definitely opens up the door.
so what's the path that you're on? You know what I mean? That's what we're looking for tonight, right? We want to find out what's the path. You know, you've done that, you've been doing this. You know, where are you going from there?
Well, to answer your first question, to be on there, I mean, such a huge honor. I mean, I feel like I was starstruck up until the last bit of filming where I finally started getting comfortable. You know, and during the whole interview process, I actually thought it was like a police sting. Like they were getting ready to bust me. They're trying to set me up and meet them somewhere, and they were gonna throw me in the back of a car. So up until the week before, I was kind of weary about everything, and then yeah, I got there and just total starstruck. I mean, these guys, I see them as like the gods of moonshine, like. You know, like you said, they've taken like a backwoods art and they brought it into the limelight. You know, today's moonshine would not be what it is without them. But yeah, the path that like you said, they've taken like a backwoods art.
Oh, that's my fault. Sorry. I flipped over to the Facebook and it was I still had the sound up. All right, go ahead. The path.
But yeah, one of the episode that I was on, I really didn't know what to expect and, what to expect since. But eventually, I would like to own my own distillery one day. But since the show, I've actually partnered up with the distillery in my area. They put out some awesome moonshine and some craft whiskeys, South Mountain Distilling, and we're in the beginning stages of hopefully put the product that you're tasting right now on the shelf.
Well, that's excellent. So that's the kind of door that it opens. Now, did you have that connection pretty much, and were thinking beforehand, or was it a direct relation to going on the show?
Well, I actually first heard about South Mountain Distilling while we were up there filming. We stopped in at this place called Adventure Distilling Company. Went in and looked, and they had all these different flavors: pecan pie and cinnamon and pineapple upside down cake. And I was like, God, this place is awesome, man. They're actually a sister distillery of South Mountain Distilling. So they actually sell both there, and that's how I actually found them. But when I won, I was I was not anticipating going legal. It just wasn't in the plan. You know, I knew that I was going to get a limited run with Sugarlands Distilling as part of my winter's package, but never anticipated that another distillery would want to pick me up.
Yeah, that is excellent. That you know how you describe that. Now, as far as you just said it, what was the winner's package? Let's go to that. I mean, you did it and won, and there's but there it's great. You get the honor of winning, but then go over the actual package.
So, for those of you who haven't seen the show before, they get 3 distillers, whether it's they're all moonshiners, backwoods distillers, no professional experience, or they throw in some professional distillers in there. And the 3 are competing against each other for a limited run at Sugarlands Distillery, where they'll take your winning liquor and they'll produce it at Sugarlands at their Gallenberg Distillery for a limited time.
That's okay. And then do they sell that at the distillery there? That's kind of like that's the whole purpose. They got the brand then on the shelf there for that run.
Correct. So it'll be like a Gallenberg exclusive.
Okay.
For when they do put it out.
Okay. So have you done the run?
I have not. We are well. I say we. I said Sugarlands is actually behind 2 to 3 seasons right now. So.
And I can understand that. It's the world went to shit there for a while, right? Everybody, it put everybody behind, So.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, Nick, so.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, so since the show and obviously the exposure that you've gotten from it, so are you getting contacted by any distilleries that want you to be involved with them? Because, I mean, I would think if I owned a distillery and you're always looking for good distillers who know their craft, obviously you know it very well. Do you hear from these people, or is that something you think that'll come down the pipe?
Well, I've heard from a few, and I actually interviewed for some head distiller positions, and the big thing is scale. Is that they want someone with experience running on the 750 gallon, all steam pot, and I run on a 20 gallon, electric submarine pot, So, I think they're a little bit weary as to can I mass produce what I do, like on a small scale.
Yeah.
But I mean, the future's always open for that. I'm always open to do opportunities with that, and I hope this partnership with South Mountain Distilling leads somewhere. If not, build a better relationship with them.
Mm-hmm.
We had Pappy G, which is George Rose, on a couple I think it was probably last Tuesday, and he talked the same. So he had done some moonshining at Neely, and he basically put out his grandpa's recipe. It's called
Poppies.
Yeah, Pop Casey's. It's a 9 grain. It's old Kentucky 31 9 grain moonshine. So he used 9 grains to make the moonshine. But he talked the same thing what you're talking about. When he got there, and you're doing a 600 gallon still, opposed to like what you're doing in a 20 gallon still, and you're doing the math to get your mash into that 600. He said that was part of the whole thing of what was the hard part of and then if you fuck up a 20 gallon run, it's not like it's a good thing. And it's not like, but if you start over, if you had to start over because something happened or whatever, but when you're doing 600 gallons and you mash it and you get it in and you ferment it and you get it into the state. You gotta, I mean, he said that there's a certain aspect of pressure, but from everybody I've ever talked to that's done, Alan Bishop, he got hired at I believe it's Copper and Keys, and they did the same thing. They're like, here's the still, do it. And he looked at it, the guy he was distilling with and whatever, and they came from home distilling, and now they've got this large giant pot still. And he said, he's ordering the grain, getting the stuff he wants, and he's just thinking all along that it's, the grain, that the corn and the wheat and the rye and the malted barley, you need to run a 600-gallon or a 750-gallon still is a hell of a lot of grain, and a lot of work and time, that if that run goes bad, and then you have the people that you're working for. So he said he felt the same, he talked about it, that he felt that same kind of pressure to some extent, but at the same time, the only way you're ever going to do it is to do it. That's one thing. It's the only way you're ever going to home distill moonshine is to do it, right? You took that step, you decided to do it. It's a big step, but it's the same thing as you go along the process. I think that is very similar.
Well, and you got to go back to like hundreds of years ago. Like everybody had to start somewhere. Like, there's some distilleries that's been passed down from generation to generation, but there are those who started in the backwoods moonshine. And Tim Smith is a perfect example of that with his Climax moonshine. Like, he started backwoods, got on the show, like went legal like he said he would. And I think he's in pretty much every state in the U.S. with it. So, for me, it's all about legacy. I want to leave something behind for my daughter that she can be proud of, that she can carry on if she decides to. And I hope this peanut butter banana is going to be the ticket.
Yeah, there you go. So let's talk about when it comes to moonshine. Now, moonshiners can have no problem making whiskey. It just you basically are using your grain mash bills or whatnot, but but because you're a moonshiner, you're not really held to the rules of whiskey. So there's like you said, in the one you add in the peanut butter. It's like you're not adding in peanut butter when you're making whiskey, unless you're going to try and make peanut butter flavored whiskey, correct?
Right, and most actual peanut butter flavored whiskeys are flavored after the fact.
Right.
So when I started out doing craft whiskeys. Rapid aging to thermocycling, different ways to kind of replicate that barrel taste. And I actually got fairly good at a maple vanilla whiskey that I was super proud of. But then I started thinking long term, do I really want to go into like the expensive whiskey market? There are so many out there, and so many that just have this legacy behind them. Whereas like a newcomer, am I ready to step up into the big boys game? And that's where I feel like I started experimenting with different things with brandies and moonshine, and I just feel like moonshine, there's such potential there for it to really grow.
Well, one of the things when you talk to moonshine people who moonshined and home distilled, there's an aspect of going into the commercial whiskey making industry where where I really feel and that and have been taught that when you ferment in a natural environment, and when you the kind of water that you can use, like if you're set up next to a stream and you're pulling the water out of the creek, that type of thing. It all comes down to how close you are to nature. And there's a certain aspect of whiskey distilling or moonshining that nature completely takes a part in. And I think if you're taught how to do this through schooling to go into the commercial, you're skipping a lot of that understanding and respect there is to the yeast you're using, or how you capture your yeast, and what some people use dry yeast, some people use some people do I mean, I had no idea up until last year. There's a thing where you just where you just put everything in there and to ferment, you cook it and you put it out there and you just wait. It can take up to a month or 2 months, and you're just waiting for the natural yeast in the area to take hold. And sometimes it wouldn't. I mean, there was some fermenting, the first fermentation after the Pilgrims arrived at Plymouth Rock. They brought a still, and their fermentation was natural, and it didn't take hold for 8 months. After 8 months, it finally took hold. And then the second one, they were able to do it and produce something that was drinkable.
Well, and you got to look at it too that Vikings, honey mead was always their big deal. You think back like how they discovered that honey and a little bit of water, and then just leave it there, and it ferments into something that's gonna get you crazy drunk. It's crazy how we developed as, I'm getting a little deep here, but as humans, when it comes to distilling and the different tricks of the trade, I do feel like as moonshiners who have the home distilling aspect of it, try to stick to as traditional as possible. Whereas if you go to school for it, you got a degree in food chemistry or whatever the case may be, the scientific part of it, like you were saying, but I feel like you need a little bit of both to really master it. It's an even balance on that.
I feel it's almost like the medical field. There's a lot of natural medicine, natural supplements and herbs that somebody who does that holistic part of it. But then there's the part of the modern medicine and the medical part of it. But if you can combine the two, is where the answer usually is, unless you're talking about catastrophic stuff that nobody knows what's going on. But at the same time, my wife is a midwife, a home birth midwife, but she also learned a lot from doctors by being initially she was a doula in the hospital, and she learned a lot of medical stuff. That's just how her brain works. And then when she became a home birth midwife, she could apply she applies both parts to her practice. I mean, if things start to get to a point where you need medical attention, you got to go get medical attention. But it's a natural thing, and it's the same thing like what you're saying, is that if you have both, the best thing would be is somebody who's trained both ways, and then develops the best of both worlds. I mean, I've heard so much about the modern day distillery, and it's not the same as let's just say some of the older distilleries that are running. Some of the big guys at the old distilleries have the modern day technology, but you take like a place like Bardstown Bourbon Company, where it's all been installed initially and set up to work, and you have complete control. And yes, the control that you have there is very modern, but if you understand how it was done in the old days and what you're trying to achieve using the modern technology, you really can make some damn good artists. You can really be an artist on that machinery. But if you've never run it and all you know is the computer aspect of it, you're not really looking for things that you couldn't obtain during the old process, and then there's certain things that you did in the old process that you want to keep doing because they were delicious. It's the same thing. I think you mentioned something that's been the biggest and best thing, and it's even though people will say that this is not the overall for society, it's like you hear people talk about, but you mentioned Amazon. And I've talked to a couple distillers, and where did you get that ginger? And they're like, believe it or not, the best place to get the ginger is Amazon. Before you couldn't get ginger. You know what I mean? All of a sudden now on Amazon as a home distiller, you go and you need what you want, you put it there, and it shows up at your doorstep 2 days later, right? I mean, that's just
that maple vanilla whiskey I was talking about. The maple syrup I used was actually a barrel aged maple syrup, and I used real vanilla beans. Both came from Amazon. Like, where am I going to find barrel aged maple syrup in North Carolina? Like, it's just not, it's just not feasible.
Yeah, or you did it because you met the barrel aged maple syrup producer. Yeah, I know. I completely know exactly what you're talking about as far as that goes. It was like you would never think that's but I really believe that Amazon has helped home distilling. I mean, even the parts for your still.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I'm actually ordering a sight glass for my still now from Amazon. It's just, yeah.
Whereas
it definitely opens up the door to things that you couldn't get at Walmart or Target or something like that.
Is the still behind you, Nick, the one you use?
It is. But it's a little. This is actually a 10-gallon submarine that I use, and then I have another 20-gallon I have as well. But this one's all electric. So, and that's another key part that you were talking about with modern technology. Where I was using, a lot of people use propane, and they still use it to this day. I almost blew up the still using propane, and I switched to electric. That's one of those trial and error things, and you learn, sacrificing, faster heat for a safer route.
So, where in your house are you?
So I'm in. We were just talking about this in the beginning. What would be my dining room? We're currently under renovations.
You repurposed your dining room too.
Yeah.
So you're telling me that you do runs in your dining room?
I actually do runs in my living room. I break out a folding table and spread it out because I do the full thing. I use a thumper, 2 mason jars, depending on what I'm doing, to really add some complexity into what I'm doing.
All right, so let's talk about this. You sent me these samples. I'm going to keep this sample for Chris tomorrow. He can have some of that tomorrow. We'll split that. But talk about what...
I can have it. Now I've got to split it with you?
You can have it tomorrow. I guarantee you, we will be drinking enough where I probably should stay the F away from this.
Yes.
So give me proof. What, and it's kind of like cool. You just shake it up and you can kind of see the bubbles, and just give me what the proof is, and then also what went into making this, because it's really different than what I'm normally used to when it comes to moonshine.
Well, it's 80 proof. Like,
okay.
When I first started the moonshine game, my goal was to get the highest proof I can with the most flavor. But if you ever had high proof alcohol, you know that there's really no flavor in it. It's because the alcohol kills all that. So through my years of distilling, I've learned that you sacrifice your proof, you get better flavor. I feel like 80 is a good mark for that with that peanut butter banana.
Well, also what people don't understand now. What was the mash for this? You said it was corn, and then go ahead.
So I use corn. Corn I grew, heirloom corn, different varieties. I grow like about 1 to 2 rows of each different variety. So I kind of just mix everything together because there's not enough there to stand on its own to do its own. And for sugar content, I actually have some honeybees on my property. So I use a little sugar to balance out the rest of the to bring up the ABV to where it needed to be. I always try to go all grain if I can.
So, but it was honey.
Honey
You
was the sugar content.
Actually, when I was drinking this, I was thinking that there's a peanut butter honey flavor to it. Actually, so that's really kind of cool that you used. I was gonna say it's got a mead quality to it.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. You know, when I do my moonshine, I always try to be as self-sufficient as I can. You know, the challenge that I had for the show was $30 to put 20 gallons of mash together, but anything you brew or forge counted as free. So I feel like it was a perfect challenge for me because I always try to keep my costs low, so that I'm not overcharging people for a jar of alcohol that I enjoy doing. But
So to keep your costs low, you grow your own corn, and you have a honeybee farm on your property.
I wouldn't say a farm. I have like a hive.
Okay, so you make your own, you get your own honey. So I don't know. From my standpoint, I think that should be really expensive, not to you, but to other people. It's your own homegrown and your own cultivated honey. I mean, that's not something that everybody does all the time. I mean, a lot of distillers grow their own corn and their own corn strain. There's no doubt about it. But there's not a lot that are beekeepers.
No, and really, I wouldn't even call myself a beekeeper, right? Long story short, we bought this house from my father-in-law. And he left the bees here, and we kind of just.
So he was a beekeeper?
He is the beekeeper. He actually has more than one hive. But he left the hive here, and we kind of just borrowed from it.
So, and if you ever needed more, is he still a beekeeper?
He still is. I'm sure he would be willing to give up for it. So he's not a drinker, but I think he would help us out.
Just so you know, I know a woman that collects bourbon, and she's got this amazing collection, but she doesn't drink. It's just. And then Michelle, her husband drinks, and I see her in line all the time. She waits in line for bourbon, loves to get the bourbon, loves the chase, but she's not a drinker. So.
Well, I have a lady that buys it from me. Who uses it to make her own cough syrup. She doesn't drink, but she uses it to make medicine. So.
Well, there you go. See, it takes all kinds, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Nick, you are definitely the definition of farm to table, being that the table is in your living room,
And I use it.
and you're growing everything outside your house. It's pretty amazing. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, and I think that's how you keep control your quality too. It's when you're on a mass scale, commercially, you just can't do that. Like, there's just no time to, grow your own stuff, process it yourself. Like, it's just on a smaller scale though. I feel like it makes a difference. Like, I've done store-bought corn versus what I grew, and it's a night and day difference.
Yeah, I have a friend who's a chef, and he owns a restaurant, and he grows as much of his produce as he can. His tomatoes, his peppers, and he has them right there because it's the same reason. He wants to know what he's getting is what he's getting, and not variant depending on what store got it.
Absolutely. Well, and even when I do seasonal stuff, whether it's strawberry or peach or muscadine, I go to locally sourced places where I know where it's coming from and what they use. So, I always try to do quality control as best I can.
So I think I've got one of your relatives. You know Vinny? Calo?
Who?
Vinny? Yeah, Vinny.
No, not unless it's a distant relative. I don't know yet.
Wow. So wait, let me see. Is that it? It looks Vinny Calo. Okay, so he says hi. I mean, there's to us, but he had an idea that's even more illegal. He said put some weed in the doubler. So there you go. That came from Vinny.
Actually, one of the distilleries I met with before I partnered with South Mountain, they are actually producing like a hemp vodka that's going to be hitting the shelf soon.
There you go.
Super fascinating.
Yeah, it's just like if you are using cannabis for distilling, is once it's distilled, is it no longer cannabis? Who knows?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I guess you could see it kind of like edibles, like you're drinking it instead of eating it. So.
Right. It's what would you that's an alchemy thing, right?
Yeah.
There you go. So yeah, evaporate the THC and then recondense it back into alcohol. There you go. Alcohol. That would be interesting if you had that in. I think I would mix it in with the wheat so nobody knew.
Yeah, instead of calling it the devil's lettuce, call it the devil's nectar.
There you go. All right, so you got the corn. Go on with the mash and how and the honey. Go on what the process is for making this particular moonshine.
Well, without giving away too much of the recipe, one of the key features I use, and they use it in a lot of peanut butter beers, is powdered peanut butter. When I first started this recipe and trying to get it, I'd go to Sam's and buy the huge tubs of peanut butter and dumping it in there, and it would leave a huge layer of oil on top of it, almost like when you get natural peanut butter. And I'd have to siphon it off. It'd be a huge pain in the ass. But with the powdered peanut butter, it doesn't do that. So you're kind of cutting out that step.
Yeah, you're cutting out the oil.
Yeah. Dehydrated peanuts is,
The power of suggestion is insane. Because, I tried this initially. I definitely got the honey, but I wasn't able to get, I wasn't pulling the peanut butter. Now that I'm drinking it, it just comes right out, straight slap you in the face. And it's when your palate is, everybody always says, well, the power of suggestion. It's not really the power of suggestion. It's the power of education. So if someone like yourself, the peanut butter's in there, the honey, and you're not telling me what I should taste, you're telling me what you used. And then it allows me to recognize the tastes. Just like tasting or, whiskey blind or tasting food blind. There's a lot of times you taste food, you think you know what the taste is, but you taste it blind. You have a preconceived notion when you see it, and you know what you're eating, so you have memory of what that should taste like, and then when you eat it, your mind combines the taste with the memory to produce the overall desired effect. And I'll give you an example. Because of COVID, I had everything reset, and there's so much that I used to like that I don't like anymore. For instance, French fries, corn chips. There are things that I used to eat, and I know what they're supposed to taste like based off of eating them as a kid and everything. But now, when I eat a French fry, I taste the oil. I'm tasting a ton of the oil. It's almost like and it's funny because I kept eating French fries up until recently because I thought French fries should taste good. But after, it's been a year after probably about 50 more servings of French fries and the taste is still oil, I'm like, I really don't like this, so I should stop. And it's the same thing. When you told me what was in it, now I can recognize that flavor. But without knowing that flavor in there, I couldn't come up with what it was because you just, blind, you just don't know. It's in there and I could taste it, but I couldn't tell you what it was. So I think that was really, a cool thing.
Well, and I'll one up you on examples is watermelon candy. Like I feel like it's like the biggest lie when it comes to how watermelon actually tastes. Uh, like you go eat a watermelon Jolly Rancher and then you turn around and eat a fresh watermelon. It's not the same. But
Not
the
close.
food market these days like tells you that that's what watermelon tastes like.
Hey, Nick, have you ever drank a high noon watermelon?
No, I have not.
Okay, so the high noon drinks, they have a watermelon. It tastes absolutely like the rind of the watermelon, not the good part.
Yuck.
Well, the guy I was on the show with, Devon, he did like his spirit he was doing was a watermelon moonshine, and he used fresh watermelon in a slurry, and macerated it before he distilled it, and it came out tasting just like a Jolly Rancher. Like I was so surprised because I hate fresh watermelon, and I probably would have drank the whole jar if you'd have let me.
Well, you condense those sugars. I mean, one of the things that's and for everybody out there, I mean, one of the main differences between moonshine and whiskey is the sugar. Some people use actual just cane grain sugar, and that allows when you're putting it in your mash, it basically is the ultimate food for yeast. It's the right molecules for breaking down. When you're making whiskey and you're using the grains for, you're using rye and you're using wheat and you're using corn, you got to actually add the barley or enzymes to break those sugar chains. Where the sugar that you're adding, is that chain's already ready to be processed from from sugar into alcohol by the yeast. And I'm it's funny, but like now if you take that off at 180 proof, you're not going to taste a lot of the sugar, right? So what you're saying is you like to what's it coming off the still for you when you're distilling?
So when that comes off the steel, after I get my 4 shots in my heads, I sit at around 160 to 150 for the majority of the hearts, and then it'll tank down through the tail pretty quickly after that. But yeah, the rest of it's just tempering it down, and then I back flavor with a little bit more, well, backing up a little bit. I throw some banana and stuff in the thumper with it too, to help get that peanut butter banana taste. And you only get like a hint of the banana in it. The peanut butter's so strong that you just get a tiny bit of banana at the end. But with that though,
Now where you get the banana on this,
banana,
right?
so,
It's on the nose. Like
yes.
what's left in this glass, I can smell the banana. Whereas on the taste, it's the peanut butter and the honey.
Yeah. So banana is one of those hard flavors to really pull over. And banana brandy is like a moonshine. It's supposed to be a moonshiner's bread and butter. Like when you do moonshine, everybody wants to start off with banana brandy. But then a lot of people get discouraged or disappointed with it because that banana flavor doesn't carry over like you think it should. Not every flavor that you're going to throw into a thumper or the pot is going to carry over like you think it would. And like you were saying, things change, molecules change, and it changes that flavor of it.
So this peanut butter banana that you're doing, is this something that people can get if they want to drink it? Is it something that you've got available out there on the market, or is it something you're working to bring?
I'm working to bring it to the market with South Mountain Distilling, and we hope to have it out by the end of 2023. But it's and they're in quite a few stores across different states, and they also have an online market for it as well. So when it's ready, people will be able to go and either buy it online or purchase it in stores. Which is what I'm looking for. One of the things I was looking for when finding a distillery. South Mountain, they have a vision like I have for my moonshine, and that's legacy. You know, they're a huge family business. They're built on old family recipes. You know, for their craft whiskeys, and it really spoke to me how they do business.
Well, also, you can get it from me, Chris, right here.
You're gonna end up drinking it before I get it. I'm gonna have to go to North Carolina and bust out the
I won't do
dining room table.
I won't do that to you. I did this one. So the last thing I want to talk about. So now once you've taken it off and you're proofing it down, are you adding anything at that point when you're proofing down as far as flavors?
So,
Because you can with moonshine, you can do really whatever the fuck you want. You know,
really no rules.
right.
What you're doing. But so when I proof it down, I normally get it down to about 100 proof, and then I start add the extra flavors back into it without getting too much of the detail. But by the end, it normally gets down to about 80 proof, and you got a good drinkable drink that is not heavy on the palate. And a good comparison to that would be Screwball. Screwball leaves that heavy, oily feeling in your mouth when you're doing that. It's a good drink, don't get me wrong. I love Screwball. But this is a different kind of peanut butter.
Oh, definitely. Screwball is all about, I mean, so flavored bourbons aren't my favorite. You know, when you're talking about flavored whiskeys are not my favorite. A lot of them. But every once in a while, for instance, one of the reasons why is because when you're dealing with a flavored whiskey and there's a lot of flavor, if you're used to drinking bourbon and you're used to drinking whiskey, it's not the same. You can't drink moonshine on the same ratio that you can with whiskey because there's a sugar delivery. And what I found is, you know, one, the sugar delivery is pretty much my downfall because I will get off of the same amount of barrel proof bourbon. I can drink something like peanut butter, you know, the squirrel with squirrel, or I could drink. I use pecans. I soak them in bourbon and use the pecans for making bourbon balls. But the leftover bourbon has a pecan flavoring that's a little bitter. So I'll take like Jim Beam vanilla and maybe a little Jim Beam peach and put it in there, right? And then somehow think that what was left in there, the pecans soaked up the alcohol, right? But it's the opposite. The pecans soak up the water and leave. So what's left in there is this higher proof, and then you add in the sugar delivery and it's delicious. But one night, you know, I had probably 4 shots, and before you know it, I was on the ground, and the next day happened, and I was wondering, where did the night go? And it wasn't that much. So sugar delivery is something that's, you know, people have to watch out for.
Well, and I tell people when I give them a jar that it has a delay fuse on it. Like by the time like you start questioning if it has alcohol in it, it's going to hit you at one time, and you better be sitting down or laying down somewhere because it's going to put you down.
Yeah, it's not a slow delivery. There's no doubt about it. And yeah, I just find that this definitely, like you said, it doesn't taste. It tastes infused, not flavored. So you get those tastes similar to how you would when you're trying to taste a whiskey, opposed to when you drink peanut butter flavored whiskey, you actually just taste peanut butter. I mean, it's so intense, it just tastes like Skippy peanut butter. Or I'm not a fan of ryes that have a dill taste, but one of the local distilleries here make a pickle flavored bourbon. And I'm telling you, I don't like the dill flavor in the rye, but this is like eating a pickle. So you're having pickle whiskey that tastes like pickles. So it's like if you really love pickles, you can drink this, get drunk while you got the taste of pickles, you know. So if that's what you're looking for, they did a really good job of that, and it's not that bad. Now it's for sale all around here lately, but I just haven't been able to pull the trigger.
Well, it's funny you bring up pickles because there's this guy that I work with. He's gotten some, and his go-to snack is peanut butter and dill pickles. I've never heard of such a thing. Apparently, it's like what people do, but he actually drinks out with a shot of pickle juice. He says it's the best thing ever. Now, will I try that? Probably not. But the peanut butter banana recipe that the idea for it, my wife's a huge Elvis fan. Peanut butter banana was his thing. Me and my wife got married at Graceland. That's how I learned about Elvis and his peanut butter banana sandwiches. And, I kind of take it from a marketing standpoint that everybody loves Elvis. If it's related to him, and it's something he would buy, which I feel like he would, then, other people are going to enjoy it too.
Yeah, for sure. There's no doubt. All right, so if somebody wants to get a hold of you, you got to tell us. Now's the time to give us your social media plug.
All right. So Instagram at Master Distiller Big Nick. Facebook, I'm at Master Distiller Big Nick Calo. So you can find me on either one of those. I'm always open to talk shop with people. Both places you're going to find updates as to what's going on with me, what's going on with the liquor, where I'm going to be for public appearances. I love meeting new people. In my day job, I work in HR, so I'm all the time talking to people. So love talking to people.
Yeah, for sure. It could help out with sales too. All right, so we're the Scotchy Bourbon Boys. Thank you for joining us, Nick. Thanks for joining Chris. Chris, do you have any last minute questions that you've been dying to ask?
The one question I want to ask about when he goes to sell these bottles. So are you only going to sell the larger mason jars, or are you going to market the smaller ones?
Well, I see this how I do my merchandise too, because like you've seen that, I have the T-shirt that Tiny's wearing, but I also have koozies and stuff too. We're in a time and age where not everyone can afford a $25 to $30 bottle of alcohol. I mean, that's why you have Burnett, right? But I would like to do the minis and have those for people that want to taste it before they invest in that jar. My goal is not to be like a novelty. I bought it, I tasted it, I didn't like it, or bought it, tasted it, moved on. I want people to keep coming back for it. So.
Yeah, I like the size of that bottle though, because the ones, there's other marketing ones out there, but they're so small that they're literally like a shot. Where I think that is like, okay, I can drink this and enjoy it at a smaller scale, and then I like that when I want to buy the big bottle next time, or hey, I'm going to keep that around, but I'm going to get another one. So I like that idea.
Yeah, and that may be something for like future. I don't really know what the plan is with South Mountain. We're just now getting in the beginning stages of it. But I would like to do that. So.
All right.
Best of luck to you, man. It's I've followed you on Facebook for a little while now. I always like to catch up on your stuff, and it's awesome what you've done, and you seem like a great guy, and your personality definitely is going to carry you really far. So
thank you. I really appreciate it. It's definitely an honor being here. I think you guys are hilarious. Y'all definitely should have a radio show somewhere, like on the air, FM radio.
It's not as hilarious if you don't get to look at Jeff. You got to look at
it. So what the hell, man? What you're doing a whiskey there? Oh, my defenses were down on that one. So there you go.
Whiskey probably texted me told me to throw something in there.
Yeah, that's probably him. All right, so everybody, Nick, Calo, and thanks for joining us. Thanks for joining us, Chris. And we're the Scotchy Bourbon Boys, www.scotchybourbonboys.com for everything Scotchy Bourbon Boys. Check us out on all major podcast formats. And then also we are on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and TikTok under the Scotchy Bourbon Boys. And if you want to follow me, Jeffrey Mueller, I have my personal Facebook with a lot of stuff, but pretty much if you join the Scotchy Bourbon Boys group on Facebook, you get pretty much everything that's coming up, what's happening, and you're part of the group and find out when we're going to be doing barrel picks, and there's a lot of fun stuff that we do. So remember, everybody, good moonshine, bourbon, and whiskey equals good times, good friends, and go out there and live your life dangerously. Little Steve-O's gonna take us out. Turn up the volume.
Oh, show me the way to the next whiskey bar. Oh, don't ask why. Oh, don't ask why. Show me the way to the next whiskey bar. Oh, don't ask why. Oh, don't ask why. For if we don't find the next whiskey bar, I tell you we must die. I tell you we must die. I tell you, I tell you, I tell you we must die.
All right, we're off the audio portion. We're still Facebook Live, and this is the YouTube Live. This is the part where I check Facebook, see if anybody's if any.
Is peanut butter.
Oh,
and
I gotta
milk
turn
dip.
it down.
I've never-
There we go. If anybody on Facebook has questions, now would be the time to do it. There's a couple of people watching, but I don't think they've been commenting. But if they do, we can watch. But thanks, Nick, for doing this and being a part. It's kind of cool. I think it was interesting, right?
Yeah, you know, it's weird, you know, doing it so privately for as long as I have, and to now feel like, you know, I'm coming out of the closet in a sense for moonshine. You know, and talking about it publicly, and hoping that nothing bad, you know, comes from it. But
You need to put that on a T-shirt.
coming out of the closet for moonshine.
I come out of the closet and then have like a picture of you carrying the still.
I wanted to do a shirt, you know, it kind of says, you know, the police come looking for me, tell them I lost my still in a boating accident.
My family just likes corn. Leave it alone.
So, is there a time frame when this stuff is going to be available?
Yeah, they've given me a time, but I don't want to say it and jinx it. I'm very confident it's going to be out before the new year.
Okay. So that keeps you busy. Plus having a day job.
Oh yeah, an 8-month-old
And a kid, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Did you So did you do any time from home for a while in HR, or have you always been in the office?
Well, I worked for the airline with HR, so when COVID hit, I wasn't so sure I was going to have a job after that because the airlines just kind of stopped. We weren't hiring for almost 12 months, and it got to the point where they were looking at, what value are you bringing to the company at this time? And I thought for sure we were going to get laid off. And then just out of nowhere, it picked back up. And it's been heavy metal floor to the wall trying to get people back in.
Yeah. That's just not. That industry is really right now like it. And then whatever help you're supposed to be getting, you're not getting.
Well, and I think COVID's taught a lot of people that a lot of the jobs that you were doing in the office you can do from home. And now, like trying to get people back, you can't load bags from home. Like it's just not, it's just made it so much more difficult.
Or yeah, I mean, you have to. It's just like it's such a. I think the airline industry is the people have come back to trusting it before the workers, and like you have to have some nervousness because of the amount of volume that's there and the pressure and the cancellations, and then you've got the whole keeping the planes mechanically perfect like the industry has done for so long, because right now with this, I mean, there's got to be shortage of mechanics, there's got to be shortage, yeah.
They let everybody retire out early, and like I get it to a business point because you have to try to salvage where you can. But there's always there's always a reaction to things, and I'll let people retire out early. You now have a huge need for pilots that all the other airlines also need pilots, and now you're and trying to backstaff, get pilots and flight attendants and customer service from these other airlines who are, trying to one up you as well.
And now you also have a perfect opportunity to sell all your little bottles to the airline, and then everybody can be treated to a nice drink on the airline instead of some crappy stuff.
Oh yeah. I didn't think of it like that, but yeah, I should definitely try to market it to flight service.
Yeah, that would be awesome. I mean, there you go. Talk about the ultimate legitimate. You just doing it. You just basically get it through all the airlines. Everybody's going to be flying everywhere. Like, we need more of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to see your marketing campaign to convince your bosses that they should be doing your moonshine on the airlines. That ought to be fun.
Well, when the show aired, I was so nervous that because if you go back and watch a lot of the episodes, they talk about where people work and stuff. And when they did my interview, my biopic, I talked about where I work, and I didn't really name my company per se. But I was scared to death. Like my vice president was to call me in. It's like, yeah, you can't make moonshine and work for us. We're gonna have to let you go. Or
yeah, except then the world completely changed, and now you can make moonshine and work for the airline because they absolutely need you. because they're having a hard enough time just keeping the people working and coming in, and you're doing it. So right there, you got a plus. That's the same. When in my business, I'm a manager, and all my employees every once in a while they would get too much the night before, show up, maybe having too much in them and whatever, and have to send them home. And now they've just decided that there's nobody for these for this job. So we could just drink all day.
I tell people that I used to turn people away if they showed up to an interview in jeans or tennis shoes, and now they're coming in sweat, and I don't even care.
Nope.
Like, you want to do the job, you can do the job. Like, come work for us.
Get into the filtration system. I'll give you the shot. It's just and then there's and then the bar of what can get you fired has used to be at least in the middle. Now it's down here. It's like, what did what? Oh well, okay. Try harder next time. Please don't do that again.
It's like an all-natural union. Everybody knows they can get away with it.
Well, I think the world kind of does. When you hire, there's no doubt. All right, so let's finish up. I'm going to stop the recording.
Recording stopped.
There we go. And let's take ourselves off. everybody on Facebook, good night. Here we go. We are going to stop. We're no longer, and I'm going to stop the YouTube now. All right. Let's see. We'll just take that off and see. Yeah, fun. I don't even know. Oh, that's how you do it, right?